and my burden is light. Jesus invites us to learn from him. I want to read the same exact passage from the Message translation, Eugene Peterson. I think Eugene Peterson potentially writes a phrase in here that I believe after he wrote this phrase, he could have, not to be morbid, he could have rolled over and died and would have been the most satisfied man. Listen to this phrase that he writes here. Again, Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. Are you tired? Worn out? Burned out in religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you, Jesus speaking here, remember, I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. And listen to this next phrase. If you've got a pen, you're going to want to write this phrase down. Listen to this phrase. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. This is brilliant. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it, Jesus says, and learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Do you sense the piece of rest here? The unforced rhythms of grace. Like Jesus is enough. And I don't even have to force myself to believe that Jesus is enough. It's unforced. It's natural. It's organic. It feels like, yes, this is good. This is right. Regardless of any situation that's happening in my life. Remember, Paul writes Ephesians from a jail cell in Rome. Regardless of anything that happens in your life, nothing is out of the control of God. Nothing is outside of his sovereignty. He says, come to me, learn from me, and learn the unforced, natural rhythms of grace. That's another way of Jesus saying, you know what? I've got you. I've got you. Regardless of what's happening in your life, rest upon me. Fall back upon me, because I'm the only consistent and constant in your life. He was going to say, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. I love this. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Wait a minute. I just found out my pops has prostate cancer. And you're telling me you're not going to lay anything heavy? Nothing big, nothing ill-fitting on me? And you say, that's nothing. Prostate cancer is nothing when you're learning the unforced rhythms of grace that are found completely in me. When you live in me, the fact that your daddy just lost his job is nothing. It may be stressful on you, but remember, don't take that stress upon yourself. Take that stress and put it into prayer. Because it's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to put something upon you that's too big for me to handle. Notice he didn't say that's too big for you to handle. Why? Because it's in those moments that we learn complete and utter dependence on Jesus. The reality that you and I struggle with prayer, the reality that North America struggles with prayer, the reason that happens is because most of us don't know what it means to have need. I'm not talking about not having the things that you want. When's the last time you were forced to sleep out in the alley someplace? Which, this is the suburbs, we don't have any alleys. When was the last time that you were forced to go a day without a meal? When was the last time you were forced to not have the ability and the freedom to go to church or go to school? Like we don't even know what it means to have deep need. I'm speaking generally here. Not all of us are in the same position. Not all of us find our stories the same exact. I'm not saying that need doesn't exist, but we don't know what it means to just completely fall out and dependent on God for everything. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. You'll learn to live freely and lightly. Open your Bible, Genesis chapter 2. Let's jump in. Genesis chapter 2. So we know this creation narrative that has been told to us. We see this God who's been creating. Seven days, 6 days he's been creating, and on the seventh day, we know that the text says, and he rested. So this God, this Elohim, this creator who's been creating and been shaping and been ordering and been separating, he looks back on creation and he says, this is good. I like this. And so this creator enjoys creating. This creator, this being, not only does he enjoy creating, he enjoys looking at his creation and come back and saying, that's good. I like that. So this creator who creates, enjoys everything he creates, and then he creates things that create. So then he creates humanity and says, you know what? You do the same thing that I've done, and now it's your turn to create. And so he gives us the responsibility to do what he just did for the last 6 days. Now, in the Hebrew understanding of writing stories in poems or whatever, because really this is the creation narrative, the story that we've come to know, it's a poem that was written, okay? And so right in the smack dab in the middle of these Hebrew poems, it's called the chiastic form. Right in the middle of this chiastic form, typically the writers would put hidden thoughts. They would place or hide really the deep hidden truth that they wanted, that was the thrust of the poem, kind of right in the middle. So we see God creating. And then on the seventh day, we see God resting smack dab in the middle. That's an H. Yeah, that's an H. On the fourth day, smack dab in the middle, we see sun, moon, stars. If you're a first century listener to this poem, or if you're one of the first people to have listened or have been a part of knowing this poem, you would have known to look to the middle of this poem. So what is the significance about day 4? What's the significance about sun, moon, stars? We know that the sun, the moon, the stars, we know that they mark the day, the years, and even more significant in the time that this poem was written, it marks the seasons. Now, to the first audience, or to those who would have first heard this creation poem, this creation narrative, this word seasons is a giant concept, smack dab, hidden in the middle of this creation narrative. They would have seen this concept, this word seasons. This is huge in their understanding. In Jesus' world, seasons were massive. They were huge. There's a significance for a couple reasons here. The first significance is this is a reference to the Sabbath. The Jewish Sabbath started on sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Sundown Friday to sundown Saturday was a time of 24 hours where they were commanded to do one thing and one thing only, simply to rest. On the Sabbath, rest, play, have a great time, fill your soul with whatever it is that fills your soul. But in these 24 hours, do nothing but have a good time. Do nothing but enjoy. Do nothing but play. Do nothing but simply rest. This is a massive concept, a huge thing that's going on and fully grasping what this first audience would have known. Now here's what, if you were a first listener to this, here's what you would have known. Who's this first listener? The first people who would have heard this poem before. Now, the Hebrews were later called the nation of Israel. Now, the nation of Israel, we know in their history, in their story, that they were once slaves in Egypt, right? So, what does a day in Egypt look like for a slave? A day in the life of a slave in Egypt was 7 days, all day, making bricks. 7 days, all day, making bricks. And so they had quotas of bricks that as a slave, you needed to meet. And if you didn't meet your quota, if you didn't meet your number of bricks that was necessary for you to make this day, you would be killed. And so your worth and your value as a slave in Egypt came from your ability to make bricks. Your worth and your value as a slave in Egypt came from your ability to make bricks. And so their value as a slave in Egypt simply came from what their hands can produce. Their value was placed simply on what their hands can produce. And so God's intent, the point was, He rescued the nation of Israel, the Hebrews who would later become the nation of Israel. He rescued them out of slavery, out of bricks. He rescued them out of this identity and began creating for them a new identity. What was this new identity that He began creating for the nation of Israel? He began creating an identity of a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, and a people belonging to God. He began creating an identity that was no longer about a human doing. He wanted to teach them what it meant to be a human being. Oftentimes, we think we're known by what we do, and we neglect to really know who we are. Saint Irenaeus, who was, kind of the father of one of the fathers of the church, 2nd century, he was formative in the early development of Christian theology. He said that the glory of God is man fully alive. The glory of God is man fully alive. And so what God was doing was He was rescuing the slaves out of Egypt and was teaching them that you are not a machine. You're not a machine. You're not a human doing. You are a human being. You're no longer what your hands can produce in Egypt. Your value doesn't come from the fact that you've met your quota of bricks. Your value comes because I've simply rescued you. And I've invited you to belong to me. Period. Is where God begins to teach them their value is found. No longer in bricks. No longer in this. And so smack dab in the middle here, we know that this word seasons refers to the Sabbath. We also know that it refers to the festivals that were part of this culture, this Jewish nation. And so the festivals, there was 7 festivals. 7 festivals every year. One of the festivals, in fact, went 8 days long. And so if it wasn't enough at the heart of God to command them and show them how significant rest was in their life, that once a week, take 24 hours, sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, to just enjoy me, to just enjoy creation, to enjoy that which you've spent time creating. You've worked hard for 6 days, which, by the way, work hard. There's no sacrifice for working hard. There's nothing wrong with working hard. Work hard, but make sure we find the rhythm of creating and then resting. Of creating and then resting. Of creating and then resting. Make sure we find that. But then there were these festivals. These 7 festivals, one in particular that lasted 8 days long, that they were commanded, you can't do anything. You can't do anything but play, have fun, enjoy adult beverages, have an incredible time for these 8 days. Do nothing but enjoy me, enjoy my creation, enjoy everything that I've created, period. There were 7 of those. He wanted to drive home the importance of understanding and us recognizing that we're not a machine. You are not a machine. We must learn what it means to rest. And so, the refrain of this creation story. And it was evening, and it was morning, the first day. Go back and read that tonight. And it was evening, and it was morning, the second day. And it was evening, and it was morning, the third day. And it was evening, and it was morning, the fourth. You get this refrain, and to you and I, in modern day America, it's like, isn't that backwards? It was evening, it was morning. The first day in the Jewish culture, the day began at sundown.